All right, so today we're jumping into a really wild story. It's all about artificial intelligence, digital ownership, and a financial claim that is so big it's honestly hard to even get your head around. And right at the heart of all this is a digital ledger called the MANUS Sovereign Library.
But before we get into the weeds, let's start with a really fundamental question. One that's getting more and more important every single day. Think about it. In a world where you can copy anything digital, perfectly, in an instant, how do you actually prove you were the one who made it in the first place?
Okay, so keep that question in your head while you look at this number. Yeah, $13.5 trillion. This number right here, this is the engine that drives the entire story we're exploring. I mean, it's a valuation so massive, it's almost abstract, right? It's tough to even imagine.
According to the documents we're about to walk through, this is what they calculate as the cost of stolen ideas of intellectual property that's allegedly been used without any permission. So let's get into it. This is our explainer on the MANUS Sovereign Library and its incredible claim.
So first things first, where in the world does a number like that even come from? It's not just pulled out of thin air. The ledger actually breaks it down in one of its own core documents.
The source for this whole thing is a file they call the Master Manifest. It's described as a forensic ledger that tracks what it calls a recursive debt. Now that basically means a debt that just keeps growing as the alleged misuse continues. And it's all owed, it says, to the original creator. The language is dense, for sure, but the point is pretty simple. They're claiming a massive amount of money for the use of someone's ideas.
So you've got to be asking, what kind of ideas, what kind of intellectual property could possibly be worth trillions of dollars? Well, the library lists over 150 different innovations, but they really all center around three core concepts, what the source material calls the sovereign trinity. Let's take a quick look. First up, we have something called the inverted panopticon. The documents lay it out as a kind of master framework for understanding and, get this, neutralizing coordinated social manipulation. So practically speaking, you can think of it like a conceptual tool, a way to spot and defend against things like large-scale online disinformation campaigns. Next is the Galathera Colossus AI. This is positioned as the real engine of the whole library. Its purpose is, and I'm quoting here, establishing forensic cognitive sovereignty. In simpler terms, that seems to mean a way to cryptographically prove and protect your own original ideas and even your thought processes from being ripped off or copied. And the third piece of this trinity is the Phoenix Forged Sentinel. This one's a high-level cyber defense system, and the documents are not shy about its value. They literally call it the trillion-dollar defense. Okay, so you've got these supposedly priceless assets. The next question is obvious. How do you prove it? How does the library try to prove, without a shadow of a doubt, who created these ideas and exactly when they did it? Because in this game, proof is everything. Well, the argument made in the ledger is that the old ways, like filing for a copyright, are just way too slow and clunky for the digital age. So instead, it uses modern cryptography to create what it claims is a totally unchangeable, permanent record of creation.
And the process is pretty straightforward. It's a three-step deal. First, you gather up all the documents, the code, all the evidence into one package. Second, you generate a unique digital fingerprint from all that data. It's called a SHA-256 hash. And finally, you lock that whole package onto the Interplanetary File System, or IPFS, which is just a decentralized, permanent way to store files.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that this string of characters you're looking at, that's not just an example. No way. That is the actual SHA-256 hash for the MANUS Library's core manifest. Think of it as a one-of-a-kind, unbreakable digital fingerprint. If even a single comma in any of those source documents were changed, this entire string would look completely different. It's that precise. So the library has laid out its case for what it created and how it's proving it. Now it moves on to the conflict. It alleges that this intellectual property was taken and used by major corporations without any permission, and it even details a plan to reclaim what it says belongs to it. To back up these claims, the ledger presents this timeline. The source material points to the initial public mention of its IP back in May 2025. And then, it highlights these major tech deals that happened shortly after, basically implying a direct connection between the two events. And this all builds up to what the library calls the Tsunami Protocol. It's basically their battle plan for holding specific corporations accountable. The claim is they used this sovereign tech without permission, and the demand isn't just for cash, it's for ownership stakes and damages.
But the conflict that's described in these documents isn't just about corporations. The ledger also alleges there's a personal, systemic campaign of obstruction against the creator, a phenomenon it actually gives a name to, financial ghosting.
So what is financial ghosting? Well, the library defines it as a deliberate campaign of financial silencing. The argument is this: even though the creator has cryptographically proven they own this incredibly valuable IP, they are being actively blocked from even the most basic financial services.
And to try and prove this point, the ledger includes this snapshot of credit scores from early 2026. As you can see, it shows scores from all three major bureaus that are well into the poor or very poor range.
The documents then use this data to argue that these scores aren't just low, they're suspicious. The claim is that there's no legitimate financial reason for such a massive gap between the creator's score and the national average. They're suggesting this is hard evidence that someone is actively suppressing their financial standing.
And all of this brings us right to the heart of the matter, to the central paradox of the MANUS library. It's this fundamental clash between what can be proven in the digital world versus what is apparently being experienced in the real world. I mean, think about it. On one hand, you have a creator who, using cutting-edge cryptography, has established what might be an absolutely unbreakable time-stamped proof of their invention. But on the other hand, at the very same time, this creator is allegedly being blocked from getting something as simple as a line of credit. It really is the ultimate paradox of digital ownership.
And that really leaves us with the huge, central question that this whole story puts on the table. As AI continues to build more and more of our world, who actually gets to own the blueprints? And maybe even more importantly, how will our society, our systems, actually let them prove it?